Hi guys. Welcome to Saturday. One more week until Santa comes to visit. Hope everybody's doing well. We'll just hopefully wait a few minutes here. Maybe some people will start coming in. Today I want to talk about a case that has to do with a little girl by the name of Oakley. She had just turned 5 in December. And I'm just trying to look for something. Sorry, guys. Why is that? Whatever it is. Okay. Just had to pull up my chat. Okay. So, from what I can gather on this little girl, and she's adorable. Just adorable. So, from what I can gather, the last time that Oakley was reportedly seen alive was January 27th of 2021. Now, her parents have told detectives that they last saw Oakley on November 30th of 2021. So, people are saying it's been almost a year since they have seen this little girl. She was in foster care with a loving couple, and for some strange reason, the courts down there, along with Children Protective Services, thought that the parents of Oakley could start having her again on a full-time basis. And my dog is barking. I'm sorry. Daisy, stop. Anyhow, so she was in foster care. She was placed back in her biological parents' care. And now she is missing. And has been missing, I guess it all depends on who you talk to, but has been missing for quite a while. Her parents are both in jail, but we'll get into that as we go along. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to watch a little interview of this case, and I think it's the foster mom is going to speak out on this. So just give me a minute.
Well, Joyce, detectives tell us.
Okay, I'm just going to pause it just so you know what's going on here. All right, so you guys can see the screen now.
That they now believe that Oakley was seen alive and safe here in Grays Harbor County on February 10th. That's a couple of weeks later than they originally were able to prove, so they've narrowed their timeline a bit, but we're still talking about a 10-month period. Despite all the national media attention that this case is now generating, it has not generated any of the big tips or breaks that this community and the detectives are hoping for.
We make organic bedding.
They pay close attention to detail at Holy Lamb Organics, but based in Oakville, the hometown of Oakley Carlson, they're also thinking about the 5-year-old who's missing.
It's not good news. It feels like it's not going to be a good outcome, but we're still hoping.
A near week-long search at her family's rural property with hundreds of volunteers, cadaver dogs, and drones turned up nothing. Her parents, Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson of Oakville, are in jail on accusations they refused to give medicine to a sibling of Oakley's, but they're considered persons of interest in her disappearance as well. Police originally said Oakley was last seen alive in late January, but a new, supposedly credible tip has them thinking she was last seen February 10th. But that's not nearly enough information to solve the case.
We have to work back a week. It's difficult. If we have to work back 9, 10, 11 months, it's extremely difficult.
Grays Harbor County Undersheriff Brad Johansson wants to hear from anyone who saw Oakley or her parents at any time this year. But they admit hope for a good outcome in all of this is fading.
At this point, she was last in the care of her parents, and unfortunately, the reality that she's going to be recovered and safe and sound is becoming smaller and smaller.
Hopefully somebody knows something.
Ann Kerfin and her co-workers in Oakville want to stay positive.
Each new piece of news seems like it's just it's looking worse for little Oakley, and it's sad. And I wish there was something we could do.
So now with that big property search all wrapped up, I asked the undersheriff what the next step is. He says they still have some tips to go through, but he admits they're waiting on that one big major tip to be called in. As far as Oakley's parents, they remain locked up here at the Grays Harbor County Jail at least until their next court appearance at the end of the month. Live in Grays Harbor, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
Okay, well, apparently that wasn't the one I wanted, but that's okay. So that gives a little bit of a backdrop on Oakley there. Now, from what I understand, her parents, let me just get back to where I was. Okay, so her dad was apparently a police officer. So he was discharged from his duties. I believe, I want to say I believe because I'm not. Okay, so right now, Oakley's parents, Andrew Carlson and Jordan Bowers, are facing charges of abandonment. They are accused of withholding medicine from one of Oakley's siblings and Oakley's disappearance. The sheriff is hoping that more people will come forward with tips that could lead them to Oakley's location. Right now, I think their belief, is, sorry guys. I believe right now, that it's just, will be a recovery, unfortunately. Oakley's grandparents have been helping with the investigation, and they released a statement. So the Carlson family has been and continues to be fully cooperating with the investigation. Our only objective is to find our granddaughter, Oakley. We are praying that Oakley will be found soon, and also for the multitude of good people working around the clock to make that happen. They are asking that the media respects their privacy during this very difficult time, and they also say we do not with, what does it say? And we do not with to make any further statements. Okay, so they're not going to make any more statements at this time. This video here, it's the foster parents that had Oakley for almost 2.5 years, I think it was. And they wanted to adopt her, from what I understand. And the For some reason, the parents got her again. I don't understand why. And now I've lost my, what the hell?
And we
Sorry, guys. All right. So this is the video. I'll share my screen again. Sorry if I'm a little laggy here. I got some things opened and all right.
We're about to hear live from the former foster parents of missing 5-year-old Oakley Carlson. It's not clear if anyone outside of her family has seen Oakley in about a year. Her biological parents are in a Grays Harbor County jail this morning as police now expand their search for the 5-year-old. They're searching the sprawling 300-acre property where the parents are living near Oakville in Grays Harbor County. The parents could be formally charged with manslaughter as soon as this morning. Here's what we've learned in the last 24 hours. The Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office says Andrew Carlson and Jordan Bowers are charged for not providing the necessary medication to another one of their daughters, Oakley's older sister, who's 6. Court documents say that sibling told a school principal on Sunday that Oakley was, quote, no more. In the days that followed, police investigated. The family was recently displaced by a fire, we've learned, and moved into a local hotel. Police and witnesses have seen the couple's other kids, but not Oakley. The parents initially told authorities Oakley was staying with grandparents, but her grandparents say they haven't seen Oakley since December of last year. Now the parents say this is the last time they've seen Oakley. That was November 30th. Last night, the community of Oakville held a vigil for Oakley. Her former foster parents say they want the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to be held accountable. And the foster mother of those two, Jamie Hohiles, is joining us now live this morning on King 5 Mornings. This just must be heartbreaking, really. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're with us this morning. We want to clear up a few things about this case, which is now really just coming to light in a lot of ways. Can you tell us about the circumstances of this foster care situation?
So Oakley came to us in August of 2017, and we had her until November of 2019. Throughout that time that we had her, there were multiple red flags. So there were times that I would contact CPS and say, hey, I'm concerned about this. And they would kind of say, well, we'll investigate it. We'll look into it. And even after she did go back, there were times that I would hear something in the community and I would reach out and say, I'm concerned about this. And I don't know if I never had any follow-up, which I'm not necessarily expecting there to be follow-up, but I'm just disappointed that the times that I did follow up, that there still was no kind of resolution to this. And this probably could have been avoided.
What can you tell us about why Oakley was put back into the custody of those two? What did the state tell you about why they may have been given a second chance or whether they deserved it?
I don't know 100% as to what the state standards necessarily are. I just know in our case, once those parents started to get their acts together and be clean and show that they could, I guess, be fit parents, that just checked all of a sudden those boxes, even if it was a very fast decision to return Oakley and her siblings.
Did you feel that it was appropriate to give Oakley back?
No, and even if, so we were told in October of 2019 that she would be returning. She, at that point, hadn't had a full overnight visit yet. And by November of 2019, she was placed back permanently. That's incredibly fast on a child, and that's very traumatic to go from full-time with my husband and I to full-time with Jordan and Andrew. And so I understood, yes, she might transition back, but could we just do it slower? Can we not do it where we scare her, where she's traumatized from this? But that didn't even seem to be an option either.
And we have asked the state Department of Children, Youth, and Families about this. They have not commented to us specifically on this case. Overnight, we also learned that this couple was charged with abandonment of Oakley's older sister. What kind of warning signs have you seen in regards to that?
I personally don't know, since I didn't foster her older sister.
Okay.
But I feel that sounds pretty much right in line. That sounds pretty much right in line with the neglect and I mean, honestly, it's sad to say that I am not surprised.
Why do you say that?
I think just because when we had Oakley, there were some red flags that I noticed with parenting. And when I would bring it up, it was just kind of like well, you know, they're trying their best. They're trying to do everything that they can. But I just know that if I was doing the best that I could as a foster parent, it wouldn't have been sufficient.
What do you want to say, I suppose, to the state, which clearly had a role here to play? Is there a message, or should there be some other guidelines they should be following? What needs to change specifically in this case?
So what I'd like to just say is that, first off, I'm really angry and disappointed. You know, every day since this has started to happen, I have just grown more bitter and sad, especially reading more of the news reports and documents that have come out. I'm just sick to my stomach about it. And most of our family is too. Like, I can't tell you how many family members have been like, how could this ever happen? I think they need to completely reform. I think that they need to completely change how they're working from the ground up. And that just means that you're going to have to do more checks. You're going to have to spend more time following up on children, making sure that they're safe in the homes that you just return them to. You're going to have to not necessarily just look at a child and see, okay, yes, they're in the room. You're going to have to go look over at them and have private interviews with them and make sure, are they safe? Because you never know what that child is being told, what they can and can't talk about. Maybe they're being told to say, yeah, I'm fine. But like, I just, something was completely dropped here and it needs to be changed completely.
Clearly. So many details in this case, and we saw your community of Oakville come together last night in a vigil. So many things were said about Oakley. What was she like?
Oh my gosh, she was so fun. She loved to sing, loved to dance. I was watching some videos yesterday of her just grooving to Barbara Ann by the Beach Boys. That was her favorite song to dance to. She just was a funny kid. Like, she would just say funny things, and just all around just a complete blessing to us.
Jamie Jo Hiles, the former foster parent of young Oakley Carlson, who is still missing as we speak this morning, the search intensifying for her. We hope that you stay with us throughout this search and throughout this process. There's so much more to learn. Thanks so much for your time.
Wow. So the foster system, or CPS system, I believe on this case, has really dropped the ball and returned a child to their parent too soon, too fast. And I do know that the older sibling, the 6-year-old sibling, was at a sleepover of her friends. It just happens to be that her friend's mom is the principal of the school that she attended. And during that overnight sleepover, Oakley's sister stated that Oakley is no more and that the wolves got to her, or she was fed to the wolves, something along that effect, which was a red flag to the principal. So, and that's what started the ball rolling. Oakley was not in school, from what I understand. Let me see what else we can find. There's not I haven't seen, there's a lot of news clips about her disappearance and stuff, but nothing that I can really find. Well, if I dug a little deeper, most likely, yes. What is this one here? This one here. Okay, so I'm just going to play a couple news clips, just so it kind of gives you a background feel. We need to kind of get the word out. Now, this happened in Washington. Washington State. So, just give me a second here, guys. Sorry. Now, is my screen shared? Yep, okay. I don't know why there's such a delay, like a lag. All right. So this is one, and it's from News 10. So let's just see what they have.
Disturbing new details are emerging about little Oakley Carlson, who is still missing in Grays Harbor County. The sheriff's office now says there is no independent evidence that anyone has seen her alive in at least a year. Como's Keith Eldridge reports from Oakville.
A year, 10 months.
I don't know why we're here. We're here to celebrate 5-year-old Oakley. A candlelight vigil tonight in Oakville, a vigil of hope that Oakley Carlson will be found. But as people made their way through town, comes the startling word that no adult has reported seeing her over the past year. So we are really trying to find somebody that can tell us the last time they saw her alive. And so if anybody has that information, and at this point we're going back over a year trying to find when she's been last seen by an adult that we can verify.
She's adorable.
How?
Yeah, I don't know how that happens. Like we heard the same thing, and it was just like.
So these two people are the former foster parents.
How is it possible that no adults other than her parents that we know of have seen her in over 12 months?
Jamie Joe and Eric Hiles were Oakley's foster parents up until 2 years ago, when CPS gave Oakley back to her parents, Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson, with CPS saying they'd monitor for a few months.
They said 6 months. They were going to check for 6 months. That's like that is not enough time. We had her for, well over 2 years, and 6 months they were able to check a couple of boxes, and they were okay. In 6 months we're done. Never checked her again.
CPS says it can't comment for privacy reasons, and so the candles are out. The hope is there, and what they really want is to make sure that Oakley's picture remains out in front, so that people can take a look, and perhaps somebody will have information and come forward. In Oakville, Keith Eldridge, Como News.
Another important question that needs answering: what type of town will Phoenix look like after the Alameda fire rebuild is?
I don't know where that's from. Okay. So this poor little girl, I just tell you. Okay, so let me just read what I can hear. So it just says, disturbing new details are emerging about little Oakley Carlson, who is still missing in Grays Harbor County. The sheriff's office now says there is no independent evidence that she has been seen in a year. Detectives say her parents have also reportedly not been providing medication for their 6-year-old daughter as required by her doctor for approximately 15 months. They say that the 6-year-old is now in protective custody, so Oakley's sibling. They also say that the medication is necessary for her physical well-being and puts her at risk for physical impairment that could eventually resulted in death. On Thursday, prosecutors charged Andrew Carlson and Jordan Bowers with an abandonment of a dependent person in a second degree. They have not yet been charged in connection to the disappearance of Oakley. Now let me make sure when this report came out. So this was back December 9th. So I think that has changed. I think they have been charged with more now. They're continuing to be held on a $150,000 bail, and they are set to be in court for December 30th. Detectives are looking for anyone who may have seen Oakley alive since January 27th of 2021. However, recently they say now I think they said January 10th or February 10th was the last time someone seen her. Do, do, do. So, okay, I know there's a couple other good videos. I saved them to my playlist. And they are not in order, so I don't know.
That is where we begin tonight. A 5-year-old girl is missing, and investigators are fearing the worst. Thanks for joining us for the news at 10. I'm Jamie Tompkins.
And I'm David Rose. You're looking at the parents there, now behind bars in Grays Harbor County. The sheriff telling Fox 13 News that they're being held on investigation of manslaughter.
But the pictures that investigators really want you to see are the ones of 5-year-old Oakley Carlson, because if you have seen this little girl in the past year, they need to hear from you.
Fox 13 News reporter Matthew Smith joining us live now from Montesano tonight. And Matt, you were at that search scene just a short time ago. What's the latest?
Well, they had to wrap up because it's just too dark to continue the work up there. We don't know if Oakley is alive or if she's dead. Nobody does. And I tell you what, the Foster family, they are in shock. They feared something bad could happen, but they weren't fearing something like this. Tonight, we're outside the courthouse here in Grays Harbor County because we are expecting charges in the future against the biological parents here. But the bottom line, the thing everybody wants to know, where is Oakley?
Bottom line, yeah.
It doesn't feel real in the worst way.
That's the voice of Oakley's one-time foster dad, in shock at the idea that the sheriff's office, State Patrol, and the FBI are searching for little Oakley Carlson. Today, both Eric and Jamie Joe have waited by the phone, hoping the deputies out here in Oakville would deliver them good news.
I said, please don't give up on me, and please don't give up on her, because I felt like in 2019, everybody gave up on us. Everybody gave up on us. And he said, I promise you that I won't give up on you, and I won't give up on her.
November of 2019 is when the Hiles last had Oakley. She spent 2 years in their home and thought of them as mom and dad. I'm told she returned to the Carlson home just up this road when another child was born. The deputies tell us the other children in Jordan Bauer and Andrew Carlson's home are safe and accounted for. The parents, however, are behind bars for first-degree manslaughter.
And that's based on the unusual circumstances surrounding the disappearance of their child and the extended amount of time that nobody has seen or heard from the child. We're unfortunately fearing the worst, but we are absolutely praying for the best outcome in this situation.
Neighbors tell me they had not seen Oakley for some time, that the school bus wasn't coming around anymore. Investigators say a concerned citizen asked for a welfare check, and while Carlson and Bauer had spoken with investigators, no one seemed to be able to pinpoint how Oakley turned up missing.
They don't have a great explanation for us.
The search dogs were spotted in this neighborhood early this morning, but now dark, the search has been called off for the night. The Hiles are openly blaming the state's foster care system, saying they fear that their social butterfly, a girl that loved Mickey Mouse and maybe dancing just a bit more, well, they fear that she's gone.
We always were concerned that something was going to happen, that because of the process that they went through, the parents went through, felt like it was very rushed.
We have told them several times that this wasn't a safe decision. We begged them, please don't let her go back. Please don't let her go back.
Wow. Say that emotions for everyone involved in this case are running very high. We have reached out to the Department of Children, Youth, and Family. We have not heard back from them yet, but of course, a lot of these details, this foster family, the background of Oakley, it's all coming out late in the day, so we hope to hear more information about that. We will continue to stay on top of this story. In the meantime, you have neighbors, you have the former foster family, you have investigators, all of them hoping to find Oakley alive. Nobody knows where she is. Again,
it's so sad. I understand that the whole premise of foster care is for the children to be reunited with their biological parents. I totally get that. I am totally for that. If it is right for the child. And obviously, once again, CPS has dropped the ball and rushed and put her back in with her parents, who probably couldn't cope with all that. And I don't know how many other siblings she has at this moment, but my Lord, come on, people. Okay.
If you have that picture, we'll put that up on our website, fox13seattle.com. Check it out after the show. Spread it around. If anyone has seen her in the past year, the sheriff's deputies want to hear from you. We're live in Grace Harbor County. I'm Matthew Smith, Fox 13.
Like, it just, I don't know. I am flabbergasted by this, and it really, really bothers me. Now, which one was that? I wanted to let me. Sorry, it's gonna stop my screen for a second. I wanted to what was his name? Sorry. Okay, but now we want to take out that. Now, like I said, from what I understand, the dad of Oakley was a police officer. Let me just double check that with you. Okay. Okay, so newly released court documents, and I don't know how to get them all, if any. Or anyhow, so let's go. It says newly released court documents allege that the 6-year-old sister of Oakley told investigators during an interview of the missing 5-year-old Washington girl was no longer around. I wonder if this will give me the documents. No. Let's listen to this one.
Finally getting an inside look at the ongoing investigation into a missing 5-year-old out of Oakville. Thank you for joining us for the news at 9. I'm Matthew Smith.
I'm Aliana Gomez. Detectives say the last time they can verify Oakley Carlson was seen alive is nearly a year ago in January. Fox 13 News reporter Jennifer Lee has been combing through some court documents tonight, and she joins us live in the newsroom with some of the disturbing details in this case, Jen. Aliana and Matthew, we're learning this whole investigation launched after Oakley's 6-year-old sister told her friend's mom that, quote, Oakley is no more. Court documents say Jordan Bowers was enraged, yelling, and clenching her fists when cops pressed her for answers about the well-being of her daughter, Oakley Carlson. That was on Sunday. Now, days later, Bowers and dad Andrew Carlson are behind bars, originally taken in for investigation of manslaughter for the little girl, and now facing an abandonment charge for failing to give prescribed medication to Oakley's sister, who is 6 years old and blind.
Everybody's in grief. Everybody's struggling a little bit with just trying to hold out hope for a good outcome.
The superintendent of Oakville School District says Oakley's sister is friends with their principal's daughter. The principal says the sister became upset when Oakley was mentioned and said, there is no more Oakley.
When she was starting to hear some of those buzzy type words or those things that make you, as an educator, pause, she did exactly what she was supposed to, and she followed the protocol. And first thing Monday morning, they got a hold of the proper authorities, and then the ball started rolling, and that's how this kind of all came about.
Court documents also reveal that Bowers and Carlson initially lied to police, saying she was with Carlson's parents. Oakley's grandmother told investigators the last time she saw Oakley was in December of 2020 and said, quote, Oakley didn't look well. Oakley had dark circles under her eyes, pale skin, and she had scratches or sores on her face. Oakley's grandparents contacted Child Protective Services, creating a rift with Bowers and Carlson.
The likelihood of Oakley Carlson being alive is not very good at this point.
Under Sheriff Brad Johansson says Bowers and Carlson claim they last saw Oakley alive on November 30th. Investigators also questioned Oakley's 9-year-old brother, who said, quote, Jordan would put Oakley in the closet, possibly under a stairwell, and has witnessed Jordan beat Oakley with a belt and has been worried about her starving. And Oakley's 6-year-old sister said during a forensic interview with a child advocate, quote, her mother Jordan had told her not to talk about Oakley. She had gone out into the woods and had been eaten by wolves.
After interviewing the parents and the children involved, one of the child involved is a 6-year-old female.
Can you imagine telling that to your kids? Oakley is no longer, she's been taken and eaten by wolves. Like who tells that to their kids? 9 and 6. I just don't get it. I don't. I want to know. I kind of want to know. Like it just. I don't know. I'm reading here. Sorry, guys. It just says here, since the arrest, they have been preliminarily charged with second-degree abandonment in connection to an incident involving another one of their children. Okay, so that would be Oakley. Actually not Oakley, sorry. The 6-year-old for not providing medicine, life medicine that she needed for the past 15 months. Okay, what's this one here? Maybe it will give me a little. I know there was search. I wanted to see if there was pictures of it or video. Okay, let's try this one. I'll share my screen again. It saddens me to
Desperate search continues tonight for 5-year-old Oakley Carlson. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jamie Tompkins.
And I'm David Rose. Her parents claim that girl was alive the last time they saw her, but the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office says beyond, the parents are being uncooperative. Fox 13 News reporter Hannah Kim is in Oakville at the center of this active search underway right now.
Around 7 different agencies are desperately searching for 5-year-old Oakley Carlson. Beyond this crime scene tape is Carlson's property, and in the past 48 hours, law enforcement officials have been searching it, but so far, all they have, they say, are parents who are uncooperative, and they still don't have an exact time frame of when Oakley went missing.
and that's what makes it hard.
The search for 5-year-old Oakley Carlson is centered around this home and the 300 acres that come with it. As crews canvass and dig for any clues today, it's heartache and anger for those who love Oakley.
It's hard to find time to be sad when I'm just so angry.
Jamie, Joe, and Eric Hiles were Oakley's foster parents and had her for almost 3 years before the state and the courts decided to give Oakley back to her biological parents in 2019. Now those parents, Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson, are behind bars facing manslaughter charges.
They're searching for any possibility. Though we are absolutely still holding out all hope that we will locate Oakley alive, we also have to realize that it's possible that she is deceased.
The mystery of it all made worse with investigators now looking into a fire that happened at the couple's home in mid-November. A GoFundMe account was set up by a friend of the couple showing the damage to the home, claiming the parents did not call 911 because they couldn't find their phones.
It is unusual that a fire department wouldn't be called, I would say.
But Jamie Joe did call the Department of Children, Youth, and Families right before Thanksgiving when she saw that GoFundMe account, worried about Oakley.
If nobody's seen her, like, what could have happened to her? Was it the fire? Was it something else?
The foster parents say they called DCYF not just last month, but in January of 2021 after becoming suspicious after getting some news about Oakley.
I am so disappointed, and what a failure from the state of Washington. What a failure for those kids.
The Grays Harbor Sheriff's Office says they only found out about Oakley 2 days ago when an associate of the couple called to say they had not seen Oakley in a while.
I knew the father from high school, and the person he is now is not who he was at all in high school.
Andrew Carlson is a former Aberdeen police officer. This is him in 2012 and now today. The Hiles, they are in shock over the fallout. But the most difficult thing right now is not knowing what happened to the little girl they always wanted to adopt.
She was so kind and smart, and she loved to read. Absolutely loved to read. She would fall asleep with books in her bed. So.
Yeah, it was always one more book, which, how can you say no to that?
Andrew Carlson was decommissioned at the Aberdeen Police Department in 2017 for making false and misleading statements. As for DCYF, we reached out to them about this case, but they say they cannot make any comments specific to this case. We did file a public disclosure request, hoping to uncover more information. In Oakville, Hannah Kim, Fox 13 News.
Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson have 3 other kids besides Oakley. Authorities say they are safe and in the custody of others.
Like, really. So there's 4 kids in total. All of them were in foster care for 2.5 plus years. And all of a sudden,
community in King County has been impacted by the increase in gun
CPS.
violence this year, but leaders on the south side say shootings in their
Where's
cities
that
are
coming
climbing
from?
at an alarming rate.
Just today, 2 children were shot at Tukwila.
Sorry about that. CPS, Children's Protective Custody, whatever you want to call it, failed big time. And the more cases I go over, whether it be in Tennessee, California, Florida, Washington State, anywhere, it just seems that CPS either has, I understand there's lots of kids in the system. I truly get that. But these parents of Oakley's should have been investigated more, or should have done more in order to get their children back. Now, and this puts me in thoughts of the Summer Wells brothers, and Summer. So if like Dawn and Candace are doing what CPS has asked them to do, fixing up the house, parental classes, drug and alcohol abuse classes, whatever. Is this what's going to happen to the Wells boys when they get put back into the home? Like, in my opinion, at this time in that case, those boys should never be returned home to Dawn and Candace. Now, and same with Oakley and her siblings, should have never been put back in the care of their biological parents that quickly. To go from October of 2019 saying that she'll be going back to her biological parents within a month. Well, she doesn't even know her parents. Jamie, Joe, and Eric had Oakley for 2.5, almost 3 years, they said. You know? And to go from probably a happy, loving foster care home back to her abusive parents. Can you imagine what that little girl is going through her head? Thinking, what did she do wrong? With, Meanwhile, she did nothing wrong. It wasn't her. It was the goddamn fucking government state. The courts. CPS. Government. Putting her back in that situation again. Now, I don't know the whole situation of why the kids were taken away from Jordan and what the hell's his name? The father. I can't think of his name at the moment. There must have been a reason for them to be taken away. So I don't know. I just flabbergasted, I guess. I don't know how that could even happen.
The parents of missing 5-year-old Oakley Carlson are now facing charges for allegedly mistreating one of their other children. This comes as we learn more about how the investigation into Oakley's disappearance started.
Oakley had not been seen by anyone besides her parents for months. The school principal, talking to her sister, could tell that something was off. King 5's Erica Zuko is live in Oakville. And Erica, you spoke with the district.
Yeah, and the superintendent says that they are really proud of the principal and their staff, glad that they were able to contact deputies so they could start looking into this. But of course, they're all really torn apart over the fact that Oakley is missing. Now, meanwhile, the parents appeared in court and the sheriff's office says that they are continuing to search and they're asking for tips.
State of Washington versus Jordan Bowers.
Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson faced a judge this week, now facing charges of abandonment for allegedly withholding medicine from one of Oakley's siblings.
The state has filed a criminal charge against you alleging the offense of abandonment of a dependent person in the second degree. Did you receive a copy of that, sir?
Yes, sir, I have.
But in Oakville, where Oakley attended a preschool program for just 3 months during the pandemic, the focus is on the 5-year-old girl they're still hoping to see again.
We were anticipating that Oakley would join us at some point. The preschool teacher actually has a cubby waiting for her if mom ever got her enrolled, and that never happened. So that primary staff down there does an incredible job at really individualizing it. And so they're taking this a little hard because they really care about wanting to do the right thing for kids.
Today, the search of this 300-acre property near the Carlson family's house continues. The sheriff's office says January 27th of this year was the last time someone aside from the parents reported seeing Oakley. Her parents.
Now that has been changed to, I do believe, February 10th was the last time anybody had seen Oakley outside of her parents.
Parents claim they last saw her in November, but deputies are desperate for more tips from anyone who saw her between those times.
It is unusual for the amount of exposure this case has gathered. I thought by now we would have gotten more information on Oakley and the last time she was seen, which unfortunately makes me even more suspicious.
As they work to find that information, this community continues coming together, holding out hope.
That's what I see out of this is a hard time for everybody. It's hard to think about this for a little person. And I see the community coming together and rallying.
And the sheriff's office says that Oakley's siblings, a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 9-year-old, are in state care while their parents are in custody. Again, if you have any information, send that to the Grays Harbor Sheriff's Office, especially if you have had any sighting of Oakley since January. We have information on how to do that at king5.com. Erica Zuko, King 5 News.
While we await a response, we're still waiting to learn the answers to some of our most pressing questions. Were there shortfalls or missteps from the state agency meant to protect Oakley while in foster care?
Fox 13 News reporter Jennifer
Can
Lee
you share my
is
screen
live
for
in the
this one?
newsroom to explain what we know so far. Jen?
David and Jamie, we've reached out, but the Department of
crap.
Children, Youth, and Families has not provided answers to some of our basic questions about Carlson's care and placement these last few years. Tonight, we hear from an independent office that investigates complaints of abuse and neglect within the state child welfare system. Starting at 7 months old, we're learning Oakley Carlson was in the care of her foster family until right before she turned 3 in late 2019 when she was returned to her parents. The director of the Washington State Office of the Family and Children's Ombuds says that's usually the goal.
The primary goal is reunification and making sure that the parents have the opportunity to engage in remedial services that would address whatever parental deficiency led the child to enter state care.
But now Carlson's parents are in police custody for investigation of manslaughter while the search continues for the missing 5-year-old. Patrick Dowd's office investigates complaints of abuse and neglect regarding children and families involved in the state child welfare system. He can't specifically comment on this case, but says it can be a tricky balance within the state system to protect these children.
The harm from leaving the child in a possibly kind of neglectful or abusive situation in the home, in the family's home, versus the trauma of removing the child and the separation from the parent and possibly siblings.
Dowd says usually Child Protective Services conducts an investigation before a child is removed from a parent's care.
And if it reaches a point where the CPS worker believes that the child is at imminent risk of harm and has been abused or neglected, then the worker would have to go to court and present that information to a judge.
He says it's not uncommon for a child to be in foster care for a period of 1 or 2 years, like young Oakley was. But there are federal and state laws that require the court to look at the length of time a child is in out-of-home care.
And at a certain point, the court has to either order the department to seek a alternative permanent plan, which could include termination of parental rights and adoption, or make a finding that there's good cause to continue reunification efforts and not to pursue an alternative plan.
While hope remains alive for Oakley's safe return, Dowd says in the case of a child fatality due to abuse or neglect with a family that has prior history with the child welfare system, those cases go under executive review, which his office takes part in.
Well, our office was established in large part to respond to concerns about child safety.
The director of the Office of the Family and Children's Ombudsman says law enforcement has the authority to take a child into protective custody if they see imminent risk of harm. Dowd says CPS workers, on the other hand, do not. He says they must go through checks and balances within the courts and convince a judge. We'll continue following developments in this case and bring you updates. Jamie and David.
Wow. So let me just get that off there. I'm not lost for words for this little girl. So she was with Jamie Doe and Eric, the foster parents, since she was 7 months old. So I don't know if she had visits with her biological parents during that time. But to be with a parent for 2.5 to 3 years, and to be ripped away within a month and thrown back in with my abusive biological parent. OMFG. It upsets me that the biological parents, weren't really investigated to the point, well enough to the point where the children could have been reunited with their biological parents. And from my understanding, there's 4 kids. So there's a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and then Oakley, which is 5. She had just turned 5 in December, I believe, and a 2-year-old. So this little 2-year-old, so Jordan Bowers, the biological mother, was gave birth to another child while Oakley was in foster care. Now, I don't know if the 2-year-old baby was taken from from them when it was born because the other kids were not in care in their care. They were in state's care. I am lost at words, and I just want to get her out there. She needs to be put out there. Any of my followers, any of your friends, pass this along, share it. If you know anybody in that area, Washington State, now the property that Jordan Bowers and her husband or boyfriend, the father of Oakley, they have a 300-acre property, a forest. Now, that's a lot of coverage to cover. If she is in those woods, it's sad to say that this could just be a recovery of Oakley, and I don't want to think that way, but I think in reality that unfortunately these parents did some harm to these children, and I do believe that they need to be held accountable. And if Oakley is found deceased, I believe that these parents, I don't know what your capital murder, I think that they should be on death row for that. In fact, I think that any parent anywhere in the country that has harmed or killed a child of theirs or anyone else should automatically be sentenced to death. I am not one for an eye. I am one for an eye for an eye. I know that's a hard mentality to get your head wrapped around sometimes, but karma needs to put these people in hell. I said that word. Oh my. Sorry. I'm lost for words. I just can't believe this is happening. To this poor little thing who did nothing wrong and who was probably a happy child prior to being put back with her biological parents. Because no child's going to remember their parent at 7 months old. And it really hurts. It really, it gets to me. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So please, if you have friends in that area, family in that area, or even if you don't, please share this on your YouTube channel if you have it. If you have Facebook or if you have Twitter, I don't know what else, other apps. Please share this out and get the word out. And let's hope that we can find Oakley and that it'll be a swift judgment for her parents. And that these siblings of hers and the foster parents of Oakley can heal. And yeah, that's my wish. Find Oakley, one way or another. Give these foster parents answers. And CPS needs to be held accountable to this, in my opinion. It's the best I can ask for it right now. So just remember Oakley. I know she's one of many kids out there that are missing. However, Oakley has been missing for approximately 10 months, and it's just coming to light now that she has been missing. So they've had 10 months of her not being in their care. What did they do to her? How did they harm her? Did they beat her and she just passed away and they just threw her away? Is that possible? Yes, it is. You heard some news coverage about the 9-year-old worrying about her being locked in a closet underneath a staircase or to that effect, being beaten with a belt. I just, if you can, please share this out. This little girl needs to be found, and her parents are charged, but they need to be death row. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm trying to think. I don't know. And anyhow, guys, before I keep rambling on, like I said, just share it out as much as you can, and let's hopefully get closure for Oakley's siblings and Jamie, Joe, and Eric, Oakley's foster parents. Give them closure, and let's find Oakley. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Please stay safe and love and give love to your loved ones. Never forget. Anyhow, guys, thank you. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.